US tensions have reached a new flashpoint when the UAE Ministry of Defense detected 2 Iranian ballistic missiles fired toward Gulf maritime shipping routes, marking the first direct salvo towards the UAE in months. Air defense systems responded with 1 missile falling in international waters and the second landing within UAE territorial waters. In immediate retaliation, the UAE Foreign Ministry ordered a total halt on all commercial exchanges, trade and financial dealings with Tehran until further notice, breaking off the multi-billion-dollar economic bridge between the two nations. While Iranian officials have categorically denied launching the missiles, emergency alerts across Dubai and Abu Dhabi have triggered flight delays, heightened defense postures, and confirmed a collapse in recent diplomatic de-escalation efforts. Tonight, we ask a fundamental question: how did a regional conflict transform into what financial markets are calling the Dubai crisis? Viewers, Dubai built its modern global empire on 3 simple pillars: uninterrupted global aviation, free-flowing sea trade, and absolute geopolitical neutrality. Tonight, all of these pillars are under direct existential strain. First is the geography trap. Dubai's mega port at Jebel Ali and its energy supply chains rely almost entirely on the narrow Strait of Hormuz, with Iran effectively locking down the waterway, hitting state-owned oil tankers and targeting commercial transit. Dubai's primary economic artery is physically pinched. Second, the economic wall. For decades, Dubai operated as Iran's financial lung, the primary hub where Tehran bought goods, cleared foreign currency and bypassed global isolation. But following the recent Iranian missile launches into Gulf transit corridors, the UAE has snapped the umbilical cord. It's freezing all the trade and financial transactions with Iran. Dubai has lost one of its biggest commercial partners overnight, sacrificing billions to defend, of course, its national security. But last and not least, the battle for perception. Dubai's entire business model depends on being a safe haven oasis. When emergency sirens ring across the city and flight paths face rolling disruptions, it strikes at the core of investor confidence, tourism and real estate. So this isn't just a localized military flare-up, it is a structural disruption to the engine of the Gulf. Tonight, I open up this question to our guests: can Dubai adapt to a frozen strait and a severed Iranian trade link, or are we watching the unraveling of the Gulf's ultimate commercial capital? With me on the broadcast, Ambassador Mark Sievers, former US ambassador. Also joining us on the broadcast is Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta, former diplomat, and Major General Ashwani Sivach, defense and geopolitical expert, with me as well. Let me begin this conversation with Ambassador Mark Sievers. Ambassador Sievers, the latest disruptions in the UAE after a few weeks of quiet, how do these now complicate the larger conversation that the US is trying to have with Iran vis-a-vis the war?
Well, I think the dialogue between the United States and Iran has broken down. I'm fairly certain that these measures announced by the UAE last night were coordinated with the United States. Even if they weren't, they're fully in keeping with the U.S. effort to apply maximum economic pressure on Iran. And I would put sort of the way that you framed this, turn it around. Iran depends heavily on Dubai and the Gulf for its economic lifeline. It is under extreme strain now, and they already have a collapsing economy. We have to wait to see how that plays out in terms of their aggressive posture, but they brought this on themselves by attacking their neighbors for over a period of almost 6 months now. So Iran is to blame for this, and they will bear the primary burden of it, although of course it does have an impact on the economy here. But I believe there are other ways around the Strait of Hormuz that are being developed very rapidly. I don't want to minimize the impact, but I think we'll see. There's a test of wills going on right now And the UAE is very much, I think, working in coordination with the United States.
Ambassador Stevens, does this somewhere then help the position that the United States of America is trying to take vis-a-vis Iran? As you just mentioned, that of course, while Dubai is impacted, the UAE is impacted, but at the same time, it's actually worse. The situation is worse for Iran. Can this time then be used to reopen dialogue?
Well, I don't think this is a moment for reopening dialogue. I think this is a moment for pressure. Iran has asserted unilaterally its right to control the Strait of Hormuz. That's not acceptable. Certainly not to the United States, not to the UAE. It shouldn't be acceptable to the international community. And Iran has asserted its right to fire ballistic missiles at its neighbors' civilian infrastructure, residential neighborhoods, energy infrastructure, against countries that were not belligerents. This is a tool to put pressure on the regime. I don't think it's yet time to resume dialogue. I hope that at some point that will come.
Right, absolutely. At the same time, let me bring in Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta into the conversation as well. Ambassador Gupta, I want to understand from your perspective, sir, how does this then impact the region at large?
Good evening, Devika. Good evening to my co-panelists. The situation in the Persian Gulf is very complicated now. There are many factors. Let me reiterate 2-3 of them. One is that the countries in the region have realized that the America cannot be the sole guarantor of their security. That is one point. The second point is that the Iranians have realized that by weaponizing the Strait of Hormuz, they can put a lot of pressure on US because the US allies in the GCC states will be adversely affected. In addition, the world at large will be deprived of energy resources. So everybody will be affected, and therefore there will be a lot of pressure on the US to relent. Thirdly, the Iranians are actually, divided themselves. IRGC as well as their, mainstream administration, there seems to be a rift. IRGC is more belligerent and they are, more fundamentalist, and they want to attack the regional countries, particularly, the GCC states, as well as some other states like, Jordan. So that is another factor which has come into play. Now, US has also, made things very complicated because sometimes they play hot, sometimes they play cold. Initially, they were threatening Iran to, bring back to the Stone Age, and then they relented completely. Now, Iran has realized that these are all empty threats and nothing is going to happen against them, and therefore they are not, allowing traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, America says it is under our control, but actually it is not. Even 10% of the normal traffic is not passing through the Strait of Hormuz. This is an international waterway. Nobody should be, controlling this waterway, and that was the situation until February this year. But now Iranians have tasted the blood, and they feel that they can control it at will. So this is what is happening now. The Gulf states are in a very big dilemma because their entire energy exports and their imports of all the food and essential items is through the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz. And they are crippled because their economy is crippled. Even their basic requirements are not, cannot be fulfilled unless there is a free flow of traffic into the Strait of Hormuz. So to some extent, they are, succumbing to the pressure from Iran, but beyond a point, they will not. There's already a rift between the Saudi Arabia and UAE. They have been great allies for a long time, but now they are, falling apart from each other. And there could be some other rift in the other. Oman is also taking its own course. So there is a, possibility of rift. So the situation is very complicated, Devika, and let us see what happens in the coming weeks.
Okay, Ambassador Stevens, I want to bring in your perspective on the next question then, sir. From a US diplomatic perspective, it's being perceived that Washington might be pushing its Gulf allies into a corner where neutral mediation is no longer an option. From your perspective, is that true as well?
I agree with my co-panelist that different Gulf states have a different approach, have varying approaches to this conflict. There are some frictions between Saudi Arabia and the UAE, but actually they predate the beginning of the war with Iran. They had started out late last year over Yemen and Somaliland and Sudan. There are a number of issues regionally that they disagree on. And that I think has undermined their ability to cooperate. I think it would be very helpful. I hope the United States is engaged, which engages all of them, is working toward helping promote a common position, but it's difficult because sovereign countries have defined their interests as they see them. I don't see how anyone in this region can accept an Iranian dictate over the Strait of Hormuz. It's not acceptable, and that cannot be the outcome of this conflict, or it will be quite a catastrophe, I think, internationally. So that has to be the common goal, to end this Iranian control to the extent that they're able to exert it. I mean, they don't control the strait, but they do lash out and attack shipping. And of course, the shipping is privately owned, and it's very complicated because of the cost and the insurance and so forth. But there needs to be a resolution of that issue. That was the goal of diplomacy that the Trump administration tried to follow with Iran. But every time there seemed to be an agreement on opening the Strait of Hormuz, the IRGC decided to fire missiles at ships. So it's pretty clear that they prefer the leverage that they believe they have over a negotiated agreement, at least so far.
Right, absolutely. Then on that note, General Sivich, let me bring you into the conversation. With the doors at the moment now shut as far as diplomacy and dialogue is concerned, sir, we have to look at the military aspect of it. In your assessment, how long will it take if this does blow out once again into a full-fledged military conflict? How much time are we looking at?
Yeah, Devika, to me it looks that full-fledged war is unlikely to take place because US doesn't want war. The Donald Trump is understanding his approval rating has gone down in US. There are midterm elections in November, and as far as their ammunition stocks are concerned, they are not in a very healthy situation, especially Patriot missile, THAAD as well as Tomahawk missile. So it is not in the interest of the US to go for a war again as far as Iran is concerned. And I don't think Iran is also very keen to fight a war because economic condition of Iran is also not too good. Yes, their IRGC and their political bosses as well as the diplomats does not seem to be on the same page. The IRGC is more radical, more aggressive. But to me, it looks like that there are back channel diplomacy which is going on. There are chances of some sort of truce or peace coming. You see, remember what has happened in the beginning. You know, the might of US and Israel was so much that everyone thought this war will finish in a few days because the air power which there with the US and also with Israel. But what has happened is Iran very cleverly made this war as a asymmetric warfare. What it did, two things. One is it closed the Strait of Hormuz, where the 20% of oil and 30% LNG of the world goes. And that has affected the world economy. And the second thing what they did, they start hitting the military bases of US in Gulf countries. And it affected the tourism, the trade, as well as their energy sector and desalination point. So now these two things have adversely affected, and these countries which are there in the Gulf, which were totally dependent on the security apparatus given by the US, now start feeling that they have to find out an alternative. And this Makkah Defense Pact, which has been signed between Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia is a point in case. So the point today is that why I say this war is unlikely to start, because it neither suits US nor suits Iran. But one thing is very clear, that Iran had tested the blood and Iran is not going to leave state of Hormuz. It has realized that it has a leverage, and this is a strong leverage which is there. The only gain of this war is that before 28th February, state of Hormuz was totally free, but as on today, it is now being choked by Iran. Now, does Iran have any leverage other than a state of Hormuz? You see, the point is Iran is also suffering due to the naval blockade put by the US, and that is quite effective. And they export of oil, which goes from Khark Island in 90% and mainly going to China, is almost stopped. So therefore, Iran is also not in a very healthy condition. Iran inflation very high, unemployment, misgovernance. So therefore, to me, it looks like that the chances of Iran going all-out war again with US seemingly looks to be less. But who is the country which wants this war to start? I suppose possibly only Israel, because Netanyahu knows it. There are elections in October. He wants to show a strong posture. He has a chance of winning only if he shows a strong posture. Possibly he will go against Hezbollah and Houthi rebel. He may not directly attack Iran, but he will certainly go against Houthi rebel in Bab al-Mandeb and also Hezbollah in Lebanon. Possibly this is seemingly looks to be there, but to me it looks like that some sort of understanding is going on, back channel diplomacy is on, and some solution will be found out.
All right, Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta, bringing you back, sir. Iran is vehemently denying the launching of any missiles, but the UAE air defenses were engaged. So, of course, the missiles came from somewhere. Is Tehran deliberately now testing the threshold of Gulf air defenses and Gulf reaction? And why now?
Devika, my assessment is that these missiles have definitely come from Iran. They must have come from IRGC. There's a rift between the government there and IRGC, which is visible to some extent. So IRGC is more aggressive, and they want to, punish what they call punishment to those countries who are supporting US or who are hosting US bases. So that is what they are doing. They must have done it. The Iranian government is denying it, but I don't think they can admit it, because admission means that they are the one who would be blamed for disturbing the peace with the Gulf states, which has been achieved with great difficulty. Moreover, UAE is also the economic lifeline of Iran. I have been there and I have seen a large number of banking institutions, large number of foreign trade deals are done through UAE, and therefore it is not in the interest of Iran also to disturb those arrangements. Now those arrangements have already been disturbed because UAE put a ban on them, and therefore Iran will suffer further. Now Iranian oil blockade is already choking their income. But unfortunately, the Pakistan is playing double game in the process. And they are allowing some of the essential requirements of Iran through their ports in Pakistan. And they are transporting them through the land route from Pakistan to Iran. I think this is also known to Americans. And that is why they have sidelined Pakistan in the last several weeks. So this double game is actually giving some relief to Iran. They are able to meet their essential requirements despite the embargo on their ports by the US authorities. So the thing is that, the Gulf states wants to normalize relations with Iran, but they don't want to be dictated by their terms. That is absolutely sure. I agree with the Ambassador Mark Sievers that a domination by Iran in the Gulf, in the Persian Gulf, would be a disaster for the entire world. It's not only for the Gulf states, but for the entire world. And that should not be accepted, because that would set a precedence that other countries will try to choke similar, passages on the sea close to their, areas. So, and there are many of them actually. So that would set a very wrong precedent. It should not be accepted, must not be accepted by the global community as a whole. But I feel that the situation as of now is not very positive. It's complicated. The back channels will have to work very hard to bring some sort of positive outcome in the coming weeks.
Right, absolutely. On that note, we're getting some more information. Iran has issued a strong warning to Gulf countries against assisting the US military amid escalating tensions in the region. Iran's armed forces chief of staff has said any assistance or facilitation provided to the US military would amount to participation in American military operations. The warning comes hours after the UAE announced, remember, a suspension of economic and financial ties with Iran following reported Iranian attacks on shipping. Iran has also questioned the presence of US military aircrafts, including refueling planes at regional bases, and warned Gulf nations that Tehran was closely monitoring the situation. I'll leave the last word with Major General Sivaj. Major General Sivaj, if these kinetic strikes continue to disrupt the Strait of Hormuz, what are the realistic military options for international forces to secure the strait without triggering a wider maritime conflict?
Devika, one thing denying the fact that Strait of Hormuz will never be same what it was before 28th February. And very rightly brought out by Ambassador. Also, there are a number of other choke points which are international water. Iran had no business to block Strait of Hormuz. There is a clause called UN clause, United Nations Convention for Law of Sea. But all said and done, as on today, Iran have almost blocked this Strait of Hormuz. But what is affecting and what is making Iran restless is that naval blockade which is put by the US. That is making a tremendous impact, because though it is able to send certain items through Pakistan to their ports, but certainly their oil is not able to go. It is lying in Khark Island, and 90% of oil go to China. There is a problem which is coming there. So therefore, choke over choke point can only be a solution. In case the war take place again, no, this time it is going to be very, very deadly war. And this time the US and Israel are going to hit on the complete infrastructure in Iran, especially their bridges, their power plants, and their communication center. And so will the Iran hit all these Gulf countries, and their trade routes will be also completely destroyed. Their tourism will go. So this is going to have economic disaster for the whole world. But to me, it looks like that there are back channel diplomacy going on. Some sort of solution can be there. For the reason being that Iran is also not in a comfortable position. This naval blockade put by the US is very, very effective. And economy of Iran is dwindling. See, the real has fallen down tremendously, inflation very high, unemployment. The only problem in Iran is the IRGC. They are still very radical. They are not ready to accept. But as far as their political setup is concerned, they are very keen that some sort of solution found into this solution rather than going for this war again. As far as this UAE is concerned, they are the one which were helping Iran indirectly, because their rerouting of the export hub center was in UAE. And that is where in spite of restriction and sanction imposed on Iran, Iran was still benefiting. Iran, if it hits on a UAE, I think that will be the biggest disaster for Iran in time to come. All these Gulf countries are not going to have any faith in Iran in time to come. And I suppose that will be quite a bad incident. And that's why Iran is denying it. But all said and done, to me, it looks like that all-out war unlikely to take place, but the situation will remain like this for a considerable time, until unless some sort of solution is found out.
Right, absolutely. On that note, I've completely run out of time, but I thank all of our guests for joining us on the broadcast to take this critical discussion on very important developments taking place in the Gulf forward. With that, viewers, we sip into a very short break.